back to the Queen 50 series, and I am ready for first listen number 12. Well, before I dive in, let me just remind you that if you want to listen to everything you've done up until now ahead of its public release, or if you want to listen to some of the other exclusive special editions which cannot go public on YouTube for various reasons, things like the complete Beatles 150 series and other things, then you can always check out my Ko-fi and Patreon pages. But today, I am going to be listening to You Take My Breath Away, and, well, here we go. First is a quote from Brian May, saying, "Going into the recording of Races, we just had come back from a sensational tour in Japan, and fallen in love with all things Japanese, including, of course, some of their music. The opening piano figure, on which Breath is based, is very deliberately on the Japanese pentatonic scale." That's interesting. Freddie was also clever enough to leave the sustain pedal down at exactly the right moment, so all the 5 notes could be heard beating with each other as the chord dies away. The vocals are based on the background chords, which is why they achieve a similar effect when a spin is put on them. Well, the Japanese pentatonic scale, that's a fun thing to play around with. Well, of course, pentatonic scales have only 5 notes rather than the usual 7 that we associate with majors and minors and other traditional modes. There are different kinds of pentatonic scales, and the Japanese pentatonic scales, unlike some of the others, tend to exploit and make use of half steps. I suppose I'll listen for it and maybe talk about it a bit in a little bit. Freddie performed it by himself at Hyde Park before recording it, and all of the vocals in the version of the song on the album were performed by him, as was the piano part. Unusually for Queen, Mercury's lead vocals were triple-tracked to achieve a solo vocal that could hold its own against the chorus. Freddie Mercury said in an interview on Capital Radio, "This one I did myself. I multi-tracked myself. So the others weren't used on this for the voices. I played piano, and basically, I don't know how we managed to stay this simple, with all our overdubs and things. People seem to think that we're over-complexed, and it's not true. It depends on the individual track, really. If it needs to, we do it. So this is pretty sparse, actually, for Queen and our standards." Okay, well, I am ready for You Take My Breath Away.
Breath away. Look into my eyes and you'll see I'm the only one. You've captured my love, stolen my heart, changed my life. Every time you make a move, you destroy my mind, and the way you touch, I lose control and shiver deep inside. You take my breath away. You can reduce me to tears with a single sigh. Please don't cry. Every breath that you take, any sound could give up all my life for just one kiss, I would surely die if you dismissed me from your love. You take my breath away. So please don't go, don't leave me here all by myself. I get ever so lonely from time to time. I will find you anywhere you go. I'll be right behind you until the ends of the earth. I'll get no sleep till I find you, tell you that you just take my breath away. I love you.
That's so beautiful. So incredibly beautiful. Well, there's all kinds of beautiful, special moments in this song. Let's go back through and I'll pause along the way and maybe we'll explore some of them. I can't promise that I'll get to every single one because it's really rich. But before we go through this again, I want to take a moment to talk about this whole pentatonic scales thing because I kept it in my mind as I was listening. I kind of got lost in the music, but still the idea was in the back of my mind. And it's so interesting to me that he said that that Brian May said that it's based on the Japanese pentatonic scale. I can hear echoes of that, and yet it's certainly not limited to the Japanese pentatonic scale. Well, I will try not to make this too complex, but let's talk about pentatonic scales for a moment. A pentatonic scale has 5 notes, and an example would be you recognize that sound as sounding very much like it belongs to different kinds of folk music around the world, but not particularly Western art music. And one of the defining features of many pentatonic scales is the fact that they use only whole steps, only tones rather than semitones or half steps. These are each whole steps. And this. So we avoid the semitone here and here. gives it a very harmonious sound, and it's easy to improvise on it and to build something that sounds very laid back, open, and yet colorful. It's easy to create this very, well, Chinese music, traditional Chinese music is not the only music that uses pentatonic scales, but very often we associate that sound with traditional Chinese music. And you suddenly feel yourself settling into a mood, an atmosphere. You build pictures in your mind around that sound. Interestingly, a lot of Japanese pentatonic scales don't use only whole steps. They tend to use half steps, semitones. And so rather than this, we might have, and so we have a semitone here, and then we might have another semitone up here, like this instead of, you hear the difference. Different sound quality. But still there are only 5 notes. That is the definition of a pentatonic scale. Well, I see right away in this music, and I hear that it is not limited to only 5 notes. And actually, we have in the opening, well, I should say one more thing. I don't know exactly which Japanese pentatonic scale, if there were a specific one that they decided to use to base this upon. I don't know which one, because there are quite a few and they have subtle differences. And since this isn't strictly according to a pentatonic scale, I can't identify which one, but it's similar to what I just demonstrated. And if I go through and work out the first notes of the intro, we have this note which belongs, this note which belongs, we hear this one again, we have this note which belongs. So far it all belongs. So does this one. Now we have our complete set of 5 notes. And so we have, but this one, this F, is an added note. It doesn't really mess up the whole sound at all. It creates its own added color to it, but it takes us outside of the pentatonic framework. And so we have, and then of course it repeats again. So the only note that doesn't really belong in that pentatonic scale, which I'm guessing is what they used, is the F. But it does have this lovely quality of, and there's this ebb and flow and a feeling of rubato and almost like we are hearing the wind blow through the trees, through the grasses, through the forest, and it pushes and moves and then it backs off. And he plays it that way too. And then going on, as we get to the end of this intro, we hear another note which doesn't really belong in this scale, and that is our B flat. And so after we've played that a couple times, here it is. That takes us outside of the pentatonic zone again. And so I find it fascinating that this piece of music, which Brian May states very specifically, clearly, is based on a pentatonic scale, a particular kind of pentatonic scale. They did not limit themselves. It's not like they were trying to recreate or or completely adapt their style of composition to a different tonality, a different scale, and yet they drew inspiration from it. And that is one of the things that gives this song a beautiful simplicity, is that they are staying fairly close to the idea of, well, what they're doing is they are enjoying the colors of and the mixing of the different tones within that scale, and then they step out of it when they need to for their own purposes. So let's listen now.
Take it all away. Ooh, take my breath away.
Isn't that such a great a cappella opening? It's this idea of you take my breath away. And this isn't a breathless sounding song. Instead, it takes this idea of breath and the inhale and exhale and expands it to more of a concept of air flowing, moving, and all throughout this piece of music, we feel this ebb and flow. And here in the intro, it sets us up from the very beginning with that ebb and flow, the inhale, the exhale, the rise and fall, and breath being equated to the air that moves around us. And it's so beautifully expressed here. Let's back it up and listen. Notice the breathing points in this intro. And then a deep, and now
Take it all away. Ooh, take my breath away.
you have to love those lines that separate and divide it. And that great echo there, which isn't really an echo, it's more of an addition. The first voice rises to its high pitch, and then the other voices, which of course we know are Freddie Mercury's voice, but I'm speaking in compositional terms, each one being its own voice. The other voices join in and follow the same path, rising until they meet. And it creates this layering in of a build-up to that high point, and then reinforces it and carries us yet again, almost as if we're going even higher, although we arrive at the same place. And then we go even higher here. And if we compare to the first one, let's do that. Ooh, that's a note. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah. Ooh, that's a G. Now notice what happens? It sinks down. Now we're on C.
Take my breath away.
Now we're on E flat. So it's taken it even a little bit outside of the scale there, because we were working in the C minor chord. And then we ended up with an F sharp, or we could call it a G flat. Either way, that's how we ended up. There's our E.
Take my breath away.
That's F sharp. Wonderfully lush opening, and the ascent, the build-up of the breath in the music, of this wonderful sweep of sound, carries us from here, 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 and then instead of going to a G, which would be a bit dull, because okay, we've already been there and we want to have a bit of suspense. What he's done is he's taken us to the F sharp pitch, and it has this wonderful clash and suspense before we fall into the piano intro. There's a sequence of intros here. There's the vocal intro, and then we have the piano intro. And now here's the piano. Just a simple. And now this piano intro is built, but now notice how it's tracking the voice. Back up to what this was here. Now this is going to mimic a bit of what the voice is doing. It's not exactly what the voice was doing, but there's enough similarity between it. The voice does a sweep upwards, and now the piano does a sweep upwards. And then we hear it again. Now I like the way that bass C gives us a pulse. Just when we're to the point where everything is all swaying, spread everywhere, there's no really deep sense of pulse. Then that single bass C comes in and starts to provide a musical heartbeat, a pulse to what we have going on.
Look into my eyes and you'll see I'm the only one.
This introductory vocal part we just listened to is found in this opening melody. Let's listen to it.
Ooh.
You hear that? Now listen. If I take out these two notes, then I have, or you see how beautifully knit together every part of this song is from the very beginning. And I wanted to point that out because it's one of the things that makes the song flow so naturally and beautifully and organically, because as it progresses, it doesn't feel terribly repetitive. We don't feel like we're hearing a line and a line and a line, and then the next verse, same thing, because the voice, the melody rises and falls and ebbs and flows, and everything moves so beautifully around. And yet, when we start pulling it apart piece by piece, we start seeing how wonderfully linked every part of it is. That's a sign, well, that's one of the marks of really outstanding melodic composition. When even something that seems to go on forever and ever, and it doesn't seem to have a beginning and an ending, and yet you pull it apart and you start to realize, oh wow, this is so deeply integrated into the music, and the music is built around this. It works incredibly well.
Look into my eyes and you'll see I'm the only one. You've captured my love, stolen my heart, changed my life. Every time you move.
Again, the wonderful open pause there. No hurry, no rush to get into the next line. Every space is filled, sometimes with silence, sometimes with music, sometimes with breath. And every corner of this feels so incredibly, I guess I want to say natural. Incredibly natural. Free, easy, comfortable. Just a little side note. It came to my mind right now because it's something I've been thinking about in the last few days as I'm continuing on this Queen journey, and thinking about what is it that makes Freddie Mercury's voice so special. One of the things that stands out to me about his voice is his vibrato. That little wavering in his voice. Well, every voice has that. Whether a singer uses it or not, or allows it or not, is up to them. But it's natural to the voice. And a trained singer, an experienced singer, whether it's formal training or just training experience by doing, They can learn to control and manipulate that vibrato to some extent, and yet it is a natural feature of every voice, and every voice has a unique pacing. And Freddie Mercury's vibrato is very much on the fast end, the rapid end of the scale. And it's one of the things that I think makes it sound so delicate, so fragile, and yet so special, is the way he handles his vibrato. And it's just something that I've been thinking about and noticing, and this is a great place to notice it because he uses it a lot here, and you can really enjoy what it contributes to the music.
You've captured my love, stolen my heart, changed my life. Every time you make a move, you destroy my mind.
Again, I don't want to be overly technical as I go through this because it's so beautiful, and sometimes we just want to sit back and enjoy the music. But at the same time, it's a wonderful thing to understand a bit more about why we love what we do and what makes it be what it is. And I want to point out something else here before we go further into the song. When he lists this sequence, you've captured my love, comma. You've stolen my heart, comma. Changed my life. It's a series. It's a sequence. It's a list. And notice what happens with the melody is it's doing kind of the same thing. It's the same little melodic fragment. Same notes in every phrase there. And it gives this wonderful build up. And then there's that dramatic pause. And then it carries on from the same note. And this time it goes a bit further. And then further. Stepping down a bit this time. Again, it's the way he builds the melody that stands out to me as being one of his strengths, one of the things that he's very good at, and everything about this song is built around this beautiful, flowing, melodic plan, scheme, design. And it's just incredibly beautiful.
You've captured my love, stolen my heart, changed my life. Every time you make a move, you destroy my mind. And the way you touch, I lose control and shiver deep inside.
It's not just the melodic shape, it's the length of the phrases as well. They are irregular. You have that, you've captured my love, stolen my heart, changed my life. And then you have some longer phrases. Every time you make a move, you destroy my mind. And then a sort of imitation, a step lower. And the way you touch, I lose control. And then this second time, this imitation, which is not exactly an imitation, but it's built off of the same idea, continues, and shiver deep. And on the word deep, we're at the lowest part. Deep inside. There's so much here. It's outstanding musicianship, outstanding compositional design. Anyway, let's go on and see what else we can find.
I lose control and shiver deep inside. You take my breath away. You can reduce me to tears with a single sigh. Please don't cry. Every breath that you take, any sound that you make is a whisper in my ear.
I also love how incredibly supple and quick his voice is to adapt, to shift just a tiny little bit. Every word, every corner of the music, every turn of the phrase is sung with such incredible emotion and deep feeling. It's not one of Queen's bombastic, flamboyant, over-the-top pieces. This is very personal, very intimate, and it doesn't feel over-exaggerated, and yet it is incredibly expressively emotional, and you hear it in his voice, you hear it in the way he carries a line, where he places the emphasis, how his voice glides through the notes, and of course his wonderful legato. All of this contributes to the beauty that is in this song.
Any sound that you make is a whisper in my ear. I could give up all my life for just one kiss. I would surely die if you dismissed me from your love. You take my breath away. So please don't go. Don't leave me here all by myself. I get ever so lonely from time to time. I will find.
Just as I'm listening to this now, this section we've just been through, I begin thinking of classical, romantic era art songs. Lieder, not just the German music, but the French music and the English songs as well, that are in this romantic style of lots of ebb and flow and the colorful harmonies and the chords and the beautiful melodies. Maybe I'll pick a few out. Not that there's a particular one that's coming to my mind as being like this, but I'll pick a few out and we'll link a few just so you can explore some similar melodic, harmonic styles, and maybe you won't think that it matches, but I think if you listen, you will hear, oh, there is something similar. There is something incredibly gentle or incredibly rich or incredibly melodic or all the different things, and I'll do that, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Let's go through this section again because it does sound, I'm thinking in this section, stylistically, musically romantic. Not just in love romance, but the romantic qualities which we think of when we say it's a romantic piece of music.
I could give up all my life for just one kiss. I would surely die
The shift of harmonies.
if you dismiss me from
These
your love.
7 chords here, and the way it just
You
lingers
take my
in the air.
breath away.
And then it flows out of there so naturally. And we're right back to the same intro we had
Please
before.
don't go. Don't leave me here all by myself. I get ever so lonely from time to
I love the way so much of this is on the beat. So much of this is on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4. It's not a highly syncopated song. And so when he gets to I get ever so lonely, that lonely, that's syncopated. What do I mean by syncopated? Well, let me show you here. Here's lonely. On the beat, we have 4 beats in a bar. 1, 2, 3. This one is in between, so that's a slight syncopation, not really highly obvious. But then here again we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We're set up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's listen to this.
You take my breath away.
This is where we are here. The
So
voice alone.
please don't go.
The piano coming in.
Don't leave me
2,
here all
3,
by
4.
myself.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Lonely from time to time.
You see how I'm 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I get ever so lonely. And instead of I get ever so lonely, or I get ever so lonely, it's I get ever so lonely. And that suspended rhythm, syncopation, where it is held up and stays lifted when normally we would have a strong beat. I mean, this is the first beat of the bar. That's a pretty heavy moment, beat-wise. And we don't have anything landing there in the voice. Now, that's nothing highly unusual, especially in rock music and modern music. That syncopated, non-weighted rhythmic effect has been used and overused and explored in every possible way. But the beautiful thing about this moment is that in this song, we don't have it a lot. And so when it does come, it's a very special, deliberately placed moment. And it highlights and makes this word lonely ever more painful and yet so beautiful.
I could give up all my life for just one kiss. I would surely die if you dismissed me from your love. You take my breath away. So please don't go. Don't leave me here all by myself. I get ever so lonely from time to time.
And then
I will find you anywhere you go. I'll be right behind you.
also in this I'll be right. Again, it's over the bar line. It's held into the strong beat of the next bar. At the same time, we have this crescendo and then the piano bass comes in, and there's this swell coming up.
Oh, don't leave me here all by myself. I get ever so lonely from time to time. I will find you.
Don't you like the way that is so beautiful and gentle and warm, and yet a bit determined and declarative? I will find you. I will find you. A great use of the choral vocal layering. This lonely voice ebbing and coming and going, and then suddenly, I will find you.
So please don't go. Don't leave me here all by myself. I get ever so lonely from time to time. I will find you anywhere you go. I'll be right behind you until the ends of the earth. I'll get no sleep till I find you and tell you that you just take my breath away.
Again, what a wonderfully long phrase. Following the sequence of the lyrics, there's no really clear stopping point. I will find you anywhere you go. I'll be right behind you, right until the ends of the earth. I'll get no sleep till I find you to tell you that you just take my breath away. I love the way the music carries us through that long sequence of ideas and the build up to that point.
Only from time to time, I will find you anywhere you go. I'll be right behind you until
Love the bass there.
I'll get no sleep till I find you.
I like the way that no sleep is accentuated simply by the lower chorus. I'll get no sleep. No sleep.
I'll get no sleep till I find you.
Till I find you.
Tell you that you just take my breath away.
Notice here that what is being sung by this instrument is the same melody. The same melody that opened the song, which is the melody that was built off of that opening introductory line. And so again, we're seeing it woven throughout the entire song very gently. It's not in a heavy-handed way. It's not in a way that's saying, "Oh, I'm here again. Oh, I'm coming back. I belong here. It's my time to step in." It just comes in just when it needs to and continues on.
Take my breath away.
Nice expansion here.
I will find no sleep till I find you to tell you when I found you. I love you.
I have to stop it here because the first time I listened to this, I was expecting it to end. And I was fascinated by the way that this was bringing us back around, repeating. Basically, we have this repetition. I will find you anywhere you go, right until the ends of the earth. I'll get no sleep till I find you, to tell you when I found you, I love you. And then it brings us back into the same figure. That opens the song and that we've heard throughout. But it was speeding up as if there was more coming, and then suddenly it just stopped. And it was suspended there. And I was thinking, wow, it feels so unfinished, so unready to end. Well, my sheet music ends right in that moment. And so I was kind of expecting it to be the end. But I kept listening, and then I realized on the music track here, the graph, there's something coming up. And so I kept listening. But I love the way this makes us feel like we have gotten to the end. Just, wait, we're at the end? What? Isn't there more coming? And the suspense, the unexpectedness of it, without any sort of strange, elaborate musical device, just simply by the way a verse is repeated, part of the lyrics are repeated, and then we're brought back around to the same piano figure which introduced us and which has been carrying us through the entire piece. But listen to the way the tempo changes, and when we come into this piano, I'll call it intro figure, although it's not serving as an intro here, it accelerates, which it didn't do so much earlier in the music. It did some, but now it's doing it more so. This is more dramatic.
I'll get no sleep till I find you to tell you when I found you. I love you.
And it makes you stop and listen to the swirling together of all those different sounds and the notes, and the way they linger in the air and they blend together, and we get this wonderful swirl of sound and color. And let's listen to it without any of the notes being struck. There is a similar sound that you hear with wind chimes sometimes. If you hear the wind chimes being struck and then they're no longer struck and they just are allowed to resonate, you can hear all the sounds blending together, being carried on the wind. Very often, wind chimes are tuned to a pentatonic scale of some kind or other. And that is why they have such a pleasant, easy sound. We don't feel like we have to hear them sing a song, but those pitches blend together so nicely. This is sort of a wind chime effect. And just a fun little side note, if I carry my harp outside on a windy day and the breeze hits the strings just right, as it blows through the strings, we get the same kind of resonance without ever being plucked. It's again this sort of swirl of sound that comes so gently, and there's something so tantalizing and beautiful and otherworldly about it. And in this moment here, it's the same idea, this otherworldly, tantalizing mix of sounds, which makes us just hold our breath. You take my breath away. And it makes us physically experience that in that moment through the music. And the way that ended there, the actual end of the song, after we've had this moment of, it's as if he is then pulling out of this wash of sound, this wonderful moment of held breath, caught breath, and the sound swirling around us. It's as if he's pulling out thread by thread and bringing it into focus, like a person who's been stunned, seeing something incredibly beautiful, and they're lost in a different state of mind for a few minutes, and then they finally come back into their senses and get their balance, and out of that, what do we hear? Just a mad swirl of you take my breath away, you take my breath away. It's as if this is an experience that is so overwhelming and life-changing and intense that even as this person is finding their balance again and coming back to realize that they are standing on solid earth, they're realizing, wow, who is that person? They're completely lost to that person. And at first, it sounds like chaos, because of course, as you're trying to come out of a state of mind like that, you feel like everyone around you is talking nonsense, and why are they dealing with such mundane, ordinary things? And there's this incredible person. It's like background noise. But then it comes into focus. And what comes into focus? Take my breath, take my breath, take my breath away. And the realization that is the person. I think that Love of My Life has some competition here. Love of My Life is incredible. It will never be less than it is. Why do I find myself so attracted to this one? I guess it's a bit of the musical qualities within it. It's a bit more complex, and yet it's so incredibly simple. It's a little less square. And I like that, because an experience like this is not square. It's a little less I need you, I need you, I need you crying out, more the realization of the amazingness of this person. There might be some other reasons too, and of course I've just heard this. I don't know how it will be going forward as I listen to both and enjoy both. Maybe Love of My Life will come to the top again, maybe this will come to the top. Right now, I'm not entirely sure, but I can't help but think of Love of My Life, having just heard this one. They're both incredibly beautiful. It's a close tie. It'll take me a little while to figure out which one I think is speaks most to me. But I guess I won't say that one is better than the other. That's impossible because they're both so good in their own right. It's more about what does one or the other say to you personally and how do you relate to it. Anyway, what a delightful, pleasurable listening experience. This one is definitely going on my playlist of songs that I return to and enjoy in the future. And with that, well, we've done it. And I'll see you next time.